You see the lunch and learn slide, right? That's the slide that's shown. Your screen sharing. Yeah, lunch and learn. Sweet.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're coming up.
I'm coming up. All right. Welcome. My name is Jared. I work on the trading team. If you have any questions about decisions, because that's the only thing I know about, I don't know anything about anything else, just decisions. So if you have any of those questions, feel free to ask me and I'll answer them to the best of my ability. And if you need to, I can give you the power to speak if your question is going to take too long to be typed. So I'm going to open up the Q&A, open up the chat. So I have a perfect view of looking at your guys' questions. Hope you guys having great lunch. My lunch wasn't that crazy. I just went Taco Bell, which is kind of like, it's just cheap, right? What did you have for lunch, William?
I have not eaten lunch yet.
You have not eaten lunch? This is a lunch and learn. You have to have eaten lunch or be eating lunch at the same time.
No. See, I learned first and then I lunch.
Okay. Ooh, we got a question by JC. All right, I have a question about building templates, importing fonts, and building reports. Oh, fun. All right. Let's see. I'll break them out into 3 questions. The first thing we're going to answer is building templates. Now, I'll give you power to talk because just so you can have the ability to expound upon it if you need to. So, in regard to like what specifically?
Hi. Yeah, I have a question about like I guess let me think about how to phrase this. When it comes to building a template, I guess my main question is it only as like complicated as what you're trying to templatize? Like, is there something else involved with building out a template that makes it like we have a form with many like subflows and a lot's going on there. There's a lot of like custom JavaScript controls and like one team is building out this form and to make sure that like all the spacing and the padding is the same. They're building out a template of that form so that we can use it because we have like a similar formatting that we need to use for another project, but like
Sure.
some different flows. So that's my question about like templates
Okay.
is it only as complicated, I guess, as what you're trying to templatize? And then also about like sharing it between different projects, kind of like how that works.
Yeah, okay. I can answer that from a decisions perspective. I don't know too much about the JavaScript side, but here's how you would template in decisions. It's actually not that hard. It just depends. If you have all the stuff you want to add on the form, that's going to make it a lot easier. So, for example, mine's going to be very simplistic, but I'm actually going to create a new project. So we'll just call this like templatizing. I think that's a word, right, William? Is that a word? Generate projects.
Definitely just coin
is?
that. It's not.
It's not. I'm going to coin it. All right. You heard here on this lunch and learn. Templatizing. All right. So in regards to forms, I'm going to create just a very simple form. So if you like design a form that you like, so let's say this is my form I like, right? And let's say it's obviously it's got to have a button. Let's say it's got a checkbox, it's got a text box, it's got a number box. Let me put some data in here so decisions won't yell at me for it. Type keyboard, come on. All right, I'll do data here. I think data 2, and we'll do data 3. Okay, cool. So let's say I really like this form and I'm going to use it for multiple different sections, right? I can easily set this as a template. I think you have to go to edit, advanced, and I could say make template. So when I make template, are you sure you want to make the template? I will say yes. And then whenever I go create another form, I should see this over here in my templates. If I go to normal form I like, see it says template form I like. So now, if you have all those JavaScript controls that let's say you're going to reuse and you just need to change a couple of minor things on that form, then you can create a template like this. This is templatizing like the entire form kind of setup, right? There's another kind of, it's kind of templatizing, but kind of not really, but I'll show it to you anyway because you may find this interesting. In the form designer, there is a specific thing called a user control. A user control is similar to a data repeater in that it's its own tiny form, But what a user control does, it's basically like the forms version of templatizing flows. Like, you know how you have like a set state, send email step, and you use it multiple times and you'll create a template and just drag those series of steps over, right? Does that make sense? Okay, if it doesn't.
Okay, so we're going the user control, it's like a data repeater, but it's more like the forms version. Oh, it's templatizing a flow. Okay, yeah.
So it's not templatizing a flow, it's similar to it. So like in a flow, this
Oh.
will be good for the recording, so that's okay. I don't think I explained that very well. So test flow. So let's say I have a series of steps that I want to use over and over again, right? So let's say it's create data, and let's say it's a show pop-up, right? And I use this many times in my process, right? It gets very exhausting if I have to keep dragging over the same 2 steps over and over and over again, right? So what we would do in this circumstance within flows, we would group it, save it as a template, and this is my grouped steps. You can name it whatever you want. And then now if I go into my templates folder here and I drag over this, now I have those 2 steps connected together, right? So that's the concept. Now, what I was showing in the user control is that's the user controls version of that, meaning that if I have, let me create another form. Let's say I have a series of controls that I always use together, right? And I don't want to drag over the text box and the number box and maybe a label, first name, last name, right? That gets exhausting because I know I'm going to use it over and over again. So instead of just dragging those individual components, I can just define a user control, my user control, put enter there, and then I can set this up. So I'm going to say, let's say I always have, this is going to be first name, boom, and then let's say this is going to be last name, not used. We'll say this is optional. I will say this one's optional. Awesome. So now instead of having to create every form I create, I always have to add these 2 first name and last names. All I need to do is go back to the form I like, right? And then I can go down into user controls and I can just grab my user defined control, pick the one I just created, and now I have my first name and last name. So that's what I was trying to say with like flows, like you can group steps together and say, oh, I just dragged those series of steps. This is the form equivalent where you can drag series of form controls. So this isn't necessarily templatizing, but it may
Yeah.
help if you have a lot of custom JavaScript controls. You just drag one thing over and boom, you can use it on a form.
Okay, so it's not templatizing the entire flow, but it is kind of making like mini templates.
Yeah, for the form specific. This is just for the form.
Cool. So like if you have like a page with a bunch of run flow parts, can those be templates?
Page with run flow parts. Ooh. I think the form that you use on that one, I believe, yes, can be. Because you'll be templatizing the form on that one. Or it would be the flow. Let's just do it. We'll do it real quick. All right, I got a dashboard. Let me create a page real quick. This is going to be test page. And then we got a flow run part. Thumb thumb. And I can pick or create the flow. I'm just going to create a new one. Let's see, flows. And this is going to be run my form flow. I'm just going to drag that form I just created. So this will just use the templated form that I created, so form I like, and I run it. So this will run that, but it's not templatizing necessarily the form. Oh, I got actually have to put this on a dashboard, I think. And dashboard. Add page dashboard. Here we go to dashboard. Yeah, so it will just display that here. If you can also templatize flows too, and rules. Any designer element you can templatize through the same process of. I think I had it here. Let me move this stuff because that's going to confuse me. That's in the forms folder. Move to flows, and if I go to flows, right? And let's say I need to templatize this, it would be the same edit advanced, make a template. Let's see, importing fonts. Ooh, I think there's a document over that. I'll have to get I'll have to report back on the if you could put your email in the chat,
Mhm.
I'll report back to you on the importing fonts. I did that one time for a customer, and it
Okay.
was like last year and I forgot. So, but
Yeah,
yes,
no
I think there was also a document on how to do it. But
There
Will
is
Clemens,
just
could you? Oh yeah, do you have it?
already in the chat.
Boom! Look at that. Awesome. Let's just pull that up together. Overview. Let's see, because I think fonts GFF. So it looks like there's a couple of places where it needs to be added into the actual server so that the server can get access to it. Because what happens is you choose the font decisions, since it's just a web application, it needs to go to that server directory to pull up that font to apply it to the form that you're trying to use it on. So I think it's putting it here and making sure that in the CS, so you create a CSS, make sure the source URL is a location that the server that's running decisions has access to. I think that's the thing that was the hiccup with the last customer I was working on that we realized.
Okay.
Gotcha. And then your third question was building reports. What about building reports?
So if I have like I need to build a report on like I'm trying to understand like conceptually what's going on here. If I have
Mhm.
like a bunch of different data structures with different fields in them and I need to build a
Yeah.
report on like that pulls information from like different data structures,
Mhm.
but it looks like you can only pull in like one data source to build a report.
Mhm.
So I would probably need to build like a new data structure that already pulls in like wait, is that sorry, really quick. Is that correct? Like I can only use one data source to build a report?
Kinda. It's like 90% correct. There's one exception. I can show you that one exception, but
Okay.
it depends on something. So let's talk about the way that we probably do it. You probably would have a page with like multiple report viewers over it that report over the
Mhm.
single data source, right? That's most likely what would happen. Now, the exception to that is you can also do like here's the question. Does your data have any like primary foreign key relationships between each other?
What do you mean?
So is like the primary identifier of one table stored in another table? Like, are they
Oh,
those tables related
yeah.
in some sort? They are?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So then if your data is set up that way, it highly depends on how your data is set up. But if it is set up that way, you can have multiple data sources on one report, and I'll show that here. So if I go into my templatizing reports, report view, and I'm gonna create a report. This is gonna be I'll just call it my report. You can tell this is why I'm not in the marketing department because I don't come up with creative names. Anyway, so yes, you can only have one type of data source connected, but you can create a relationship. Let's see if I remember how to do
Oh.
this. Where is it? Will, you got to help me out here. I've forgotten. It's like I know there's a document over it. Let me see if I can find that one. Documentations. It's like relationships, data structure relationships. Boom! Look at that. Yeah, building. Yep, 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 yep. All right, I got it. How do I create it though? Is it? Hold on. Saving, viewing. It's not that way. There's a. You know what I'm talking about, Will? Like there's a specific. Let's see. Maybe it's another.
Yep, checking.
Okay, cool. I know it's here somewhere. Oh, there we go. Add relationship. Boom! It's in front of my face. So over here, whenever you click on create data types and integration, the process that we use for creating data structures and decisions, you can also use that for database integrations, and you can add a relationship. And you can add this relationship with external integrations, database integrations that you have in your process. I'm just going to call this is the element registration folder relationship, right? This is just so I can demonstrate the capability. I don't have a database integration, so I'm just going to use my local connection, but it will be the same process for you. You just might need to change this local connection to your external integration if that's how you have it set up. So I can say from table, I think it's entity folder, entity folder on the field, the folder ID. And then I could say to table on the element registration. This one just is a default like table in decisions that already has a relationship. So that's why I'm choosing this one to demonstrate it to you. And I'm going to say this one's going to be on the field entity folder ID because the folder ID of entity folder is now also the same value in the entity folder ID in the element registration. So I can add this
Okay.
relationship. Go ahead.
So that feels like the common denominator between both.
Boom, you nailed it.
reports.
Yes, that's exactly. So now when I go back into my report, and then let's say I add I pick one of those. I think I have to pick the first one, the entity folder data source. I think it's just called folder data source in here. Folder data source. And now I can click add and notice I can add related table and I can add the element registration here. And now I can choose fields from both. This is this is the only unfortunate part is the UI for this kind of dialogue field is not the best. So you have to like scroll to the right to read like the extra ones. But now I can pick fields from, the element registration table and also fields from my folder. So I can grab, let's see, I'll grab entity name if I can find that here. Boom. So I have all the folders that I have in decisions. And let me get the entity name of element registration. I think it's alphabetized, please. Yes, it is. Boom. See, now I know, hey, this is the folder and this is the element. And the element in decisions is just like, is it a form, flow, rule, any of those things. So I can say in this folder contains, my form, my report, or things like that.
Okay, cool. So can I work backwards really quickly? When you did click data sources, can I see how you added that one more time? Like if you just like,
yeah, my pleasure.
Okay, cool.
Here, so click on the create data types and integrations, go to database integration, and then add relationship. Now, this does presuppose that you've already created that external integration to your external data sources, or you've created that manual relationship in your data. So if you don't have it or you don't know it, then it will inhibit you from defining this relationship.
What does that mean?
So like that means, so because I know that the folder ID in decisions is the same value as the entity folder ID in the other table, I can create a relationship because the same value exists there. So you might need to interface with some of your tech teams to say, hey, how does this data related in some sort of way? So you can know if one value is also present in the other table.
Okay,
basically the same value has to be in both tables. Go ahead.
So if that's already there, then I'm good and I can add this relationship.
Boom. Yes.
Okay, cool. Cool. And then when you were in the report, so you named that relationship is named element registration folder.
Yeah, that's just what I named it.
Okay,
you can name it whatever you want.
And then the connection was like,
pick the table, pick the field, and I can make that bigger.
Okay. Cool. This is recorded, right? So can we access this recording?
Yes, it will be uploaded to the Decision Support YouTube channel. Will, if you can grab the link to that and post it in the chat, we upload all of the Lunch and Learns to that.
Okay, like, will it be uploaded today?
Yes, I think like as soon as it mixes off Zoom.
Okay, perfect.
Alrighty, I'm gonna go to James and then I'll go to Carter. So James asked a question: can security be applied to user controls so that they cannot be edible on forms, and they may have other parts edible? They do have edit parts that you can say. Let me go into the main form. So you probably have it on both. So the form I can say that I can give it a data name and I can say this is read only. So you can set it to just read only, and then I can input the data here. Or what you can do is inside that form control, you can already set this to be, you can change the behavior here to be invisible, enabled, and all that stuff. Alrighty, I'm gonna go to Carter, and then I'll go to Jeff after that.
Awesome, thank you, Jared. Another
Mhm.
report question. So I've got a
Sure.
case entity whose data definition has a list of file references, and I want a report to show each of the files that are attached to that case entity.
Ooh, okay.
I think I need a flow to populate that report, but I'm not exactly sure how to set that up. Could you walk me through that?
Sure. Well, so there's two ways we can do this. How do you store the file reference entity by having like the database ID relationship, or are you just placing the files within that case entity folder?
File reference IDs.
Okay, so you just created a relationship.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Here is I'm going to show you this way just so you know. This is a really good way to do it. So let's say let me just create a quick case entity real quick. And let's see, we're going to go to user defined types. We're going to go to case entities. We'll call this my case. And then we'll say this is, I don't know, proper one. I only need one property to illustrate this. All right, put that here. That's going to mix or compile. As it's compiling, I'm just going to open up the flow that I'm going to use to create it. So go to flows. We'll use test flow. Perfect. They compiled as I got in. Delete this, delete this. I'm going to create that case entity. My case, create my case. Boom, boom. And we're going to, oh, I didn't know. Oh, prefixes there. Didn't know that. Parent folder ID is going to be templatizing data. I'm going to say this is test data. And then folder description is just going to be test. And then we'll just build data and I'll put some value. And I'll just say my property. Okay, so this is just set up. The reason why I want to show this way is because this would probably, if there's still time in your development to change this design pattern, I would advise you to do so. And I'm going to show you why. The reason why is because it makes reporting so much easier. You don't need to use the parent-child relationship as if you did the way that you've designed, but I will show it that way as well. So I have this case record. Now it's important to know case records are essentially just folders, right? You go inside of it and boom, there's stuff inside of it, right? Does that make sense?
Yep.
Perfect. So now what I can do is, let's say I'm going to create a really quick flow. Nope, not that flow. And I'm just going to store a bunch of files inside my case. Let me grab the case ID so I can do this really quick. Manage my case ID. I'm also going to open up Notepad, paste that there, put it on this screen. Then I'm open my flows. We'll go to test flow. We'll delete this step. I'm just going to create a really quick form. If I can spell. Boom. Boom. Pick existing. Oh, create new. New form. Upload lots of files or lots of file. I'm going to do an upload area. This is all just set up so I can give you this really cool example. This is not something you would necessarily have to do. All right, and then this is going to be files, and I don't know how much I'll have, so I'll just increase this just a little bit. I'm going to just button. All right, perfect. So now I got a lot of files. Now what I can do is I can make sure that this is the part that may relate to you if you decide to change your design paradigm. So what you can do is once you upload these files, I'm going to for each, and I'm going to store them within that case, like within that folder. So I'm not necessarily creating a manual like ID relationship between the file reference entities and the folder. I'm basically just saying, hey, here's my case, put all of the files inside that folder. That's all I'm doing. So when I do this, we're going to loop through this. Files, put this here, and then I think I got a load from file data. So I load from file data, which just makes it a, and I think I have to use create entity. Actually, let's go to internal services, integration, internal services, and then there's a file reference service that allows me to create a file reference. And then it's create entity. Perfect. And so now what I can do is here, since the entity resides in decisions, let me just upload this real quick so you can kind of see how this goes. I grab the item, create entity, the folder ID. This is going to be static just for my use case, but this probably would be dynamic depending on, whose record this is supposed to be used for. And I'll
And that's
select my
folder ID
reference.
of the case entity, right?
Yep, that's the ID of the case entity. Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
This will work with any normal folder in decisions too, but I chose case entity since that's more relevant to your use case. All right, so I'm going to let's choose some files. I should have lots of files that I can just update. Here we go. I got some logging exercises, so I'm gonna put all of these in here. And let's see. All right, so I got these 4 files, right? Let's say, sure, I want to put some CS in there. So boom. All right, awesome. Now I've placed all 4 files inside my case. The reason why this makes it easier is because now when I go to report on it, all I have to do, right, if I go to my case right here, boom, I can go to the folder view and I can see I have these 4 files in here. Now, what that means is if I want to report over the file references that I have, it makes reporting a little bit easier because I can say, let me create my report. And this is report files in case record, right? And then if I go to, I think it's file references, and I report over the file references that I have, decisions has the ability, let's say file reference. File. I know there's a file reference. Come data source. Come on, I'm blanking on it. File reference entity. There we go. And then what I can do is there's in folders, and I could say for current folder, or I can say for folder, right? Just so I can show you. It's the in folders. For folder, I can pick this. I'm going to go to I can go to my data, and I don't think this one would display anything just yet because it wouldn't have it. For folder, I wish I can pick that to show you. Data types, data. I wonder if I can just paste that ID here and I could find it. No, it won't. Darn it. All right, so I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to say for current folder. The reason why this is important, if I do for current folder, then all I need to do is if I set that report for the default page on that case, then when I click on that case, it's automatically going to display those items there. And so I can easily create a nice dashboard for my case entity that shows here's all the stuff that's inside of it, all the file reference entities, and I can do it that way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, can you parameterize that? So this will be a report that's on a separate page, and the report's going to be linking from or the second page is going to be linking from the other page, and I've got a reference table to know which ID that's from. Can I pull that ID and parameterize that into the table?
Yeah, you definitely could. So in that report, what you would do is you would send the entity folder ID as the filter change data source for the files. So because the entity folder ID in decisions, that just means this is the folder where that data resides. And so if you set this as a send filter change data source and pass in the new case ID that you need to pass in through, that will display that data. And it can be dynamic.
Okay. If I can figure out how to use that filter change source, it's going to solve a lot of my problems. I haven't been able to get that working yet, though.
Sure. Okay. Awesome.
Okay,
right.
so why would anybody not store the files within the case entity? Because what we've been told is you always store a list of file reference IDs and you store the files somewhere else and create that relationship. They obviously don't want us storing a list of file data within the data structure for the case entity. But what are the pros and cons to saving it within the folder versus saving that list of file reference IDs?
Sure. A great question. So if you save the list of file references, anytime, like let's say if I wanted to, I'm going to go to my data types. If I edit this defined data structure and I say this is files, and then I do file data and say this is list, right here you get a warning that says, hey, this data is going to be serialized in a binary kind of long string. So basically, in the geeky term, as soon as you put that into a database like cell or row, it's just a gobbledygook, and you can't really read it. If you do it this way and store it within inside of the folder, Then when you report over it, right, if I'm going to go back into my data, click inside here, go to folder view, right, you can easily see each individual thing and you can interact with it. You can download the file, you can, do whatever you need to. So that's why we advise doing it this way and not just, an is list on a field, because it very much inhibits an end user's access to the file or even getting that data outside of that cell and using it in other processes.
Gotcha. And what if instead of file data, you use the file reference ID? What are the pros and cons there?
Pros and cons there, I think it still serializes that. Let me check. Let's say this is IDs. Oops, I can use apostrophes. That's right. IDs is list. I think it is the same thing. Yeah, it will still binary serialize it. So you won't see like a list of like comma separated IDs. It's going to be like a gobbledygook string. You have to do a lot of extra flow steps to deserialize, to take a look, grab the thing you need, and stuff like that.
Alrighty. I will see if I can get that working then. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Alrighty, Jeff asked, I'm curious about how extensive it is, about the Python module, how extensive it is. Is it more for creating steps using Python, or can be used to host or run a process that connects to DB? From the one page I found, let me look at that, I don't know. Let's see, I want to say it's pretty limited. I think, creating a script project, you add the script. Okay, that's kind of where it prints welcome. Okay. There's the script. Okay. Interesting. Let's see. So going back to your question was more of, is it more for creating steps using Python, or can be used to host and run processes? I'm going to install that module and see what it does. All right, we have, let's go to modules right there in front of my face. Where's Python? Let's go ahead and install this. Let's see, I want to go back to templatizing flows. We'll go to my test flow again. Actually, I need to go to the Python thing. We have to go to, because I think it's for just running scripts. Let's see if there's a big blurb. It allows custom scripts written in Python to be created and used as steps. In order to utilize the module, a file path must contain. Okay, I gotcha. Yeah, I think it's for running scripts to host and run processes that connect to a DB. I feel like it may be able to do that. Like you'd have a step that says, hey, connect to this database, and maybe it would. But I actually don't know. I'm actually going to copy your question and put it in the chat and see if someone else has used that step. I think I've used it one time in my 5 years here, so I don't have a lot of experience with that step. Question. Oh, no. Boom. All right. I can allow you to talk, Jeff, if you want to add more, clarification to it.
The reason I was asking is I just happened to notice that you had a Python module, and we recently engaged a vendor that built us a small AI recommendation process. I was wondering, they built it in like Azure Data Factory and
Interesting. Okay.
Azure Databricks, but
okay.
I mean, that technology we don't really run anything else in there. So I was wondering if it was maybe slightly over engineered. And I was thinking about maybe seeing if decisions could host and schedule that process, but I didn't see any information in the documentation about like configuring your environment or installing additional modules and stuff like that.
Yeah. So I just got an answer to your question. So it looks like someone on our pre-sales and also used to be on the PS team says that it's probably used for running scripts and getting data from it. So it's kind of using like if you need a, I guess, a script to get data from somewhere, but not necessarily like to create connections and things like that.
Okay. Sounds good. Thanks for the info.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for the question. All right, James. I don't think you asked. I think you asked a question. I might have missed it. If I did, I'm sorry. Yes, I can. You have the power.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Mhm.
Okay, so going back to my question about security on those, I'll call them like sub-templates within a report or page.
Yes,
The
you're talking about
the user controls.
yeah.
That's in my mind is kind of synonymous to like a template within a template. And my security question revolves around what we want to do here is create forms that we can push out to our users to manipulate the way they want to, like have the ability to, kind of, rearrange the fields or whatever they want to do. But we do want to have like those user controls on there that we don't want to mess with. We want those to be standardized for the UX for the university.
Okay.
Is there a way that we can lock that part down where even if we ship it out to an end user or a department to kind of customize the form or report the way they want, they still can't like say the university logo and the name and address or whatever we put in the user control, they can't mess with that. They can't rearrange it. They can't, do any CSS against it or whatever. Is there a way we can lock that down?
I see what your question is. So for the logo, it's kind of, I don't think there's a clear, easy way to do it. With the logo, I know you can use things called background forms, and you can force that, and you can and you can give like that form background that has, your company's logo in the top left or top right, and then has to be that way. Any type of like portal changes like that's, like that are that specific, I think that would bleed into, it would be a little more complicated and bleed into the SDK a little bit. So it's not impossible, but I'm not sure that the level of effort would be worthwhile. I'll confirm that with my team.
Okay,
But
so
I don't know an easy way to say like, hey, here's form control, user control X, and it's on all forms and no one can edit
right,
it.
right. That's kind of what we're looking to do because when we push out workflow forms, we do have specific areas on them that we don't want touched. Those are standard, and they can kind of manipulate the body of it or whatever and have some control. We even will allow them to put controls on it if they want or whatever, but we don't want them touching like, and even the button layouts. We have standard button layouts on the bottom that we don't want them touching that. We don't want them rearranging them. They got to be standard because when the student sees these things, we want it to be standard all the time.
Of course, totally understand.
But like the middle area, they can like they can put new fields on there. They can, because that's what it's for. It's for them to, it's a template that we push out to them. They can create their own form in essence or their own report.
No, I got you. Let me see. I want to try to see. I asked the question in it, and let's see if I can kind of, I want to see what options we have out of the box. Maybe there isn't triggers. That's just to see what will run with it. I'm going to create a background form because an idea that I have in my head is maybe we could form background. Cool. This image, it will be, all right, this is my logo. We'll say that's my logo. And then let's say I have images, layout, user controls, existing user controls, current folder. And let's say, let me put my grid on that. Thinking. We could do, oh, I need the grid, that's right. Try grid layout here, and then let's just put my user control over here, current folder, bottom right here, and let's see, no outcome pass. Let's use a button, because then we're just gonna leave the middle part for editing. Open your, oh, I know that's right. I have to click on this and say it's. All right, let's see. I got a response. Let me check this out. All right, it says certain sections of the form so that designer users only have the ability to edit the middle of the form, but the top logo and the bottom footer can't be edited. All right, I'm gonna check this. So we got here. So we can set that as read only, but someone could still go to the designer, edit that. I'm gonna save this, and then I'll go back to my other form I like. We're gonna delete this, but what we'll do is we'll add. Where is background? Pick form background. Pick existing right here. And so it would be something like this. This is the only way I can think of it. I'm gonna wait till I get some further answers. If you could put your email in the chat,
Sure.
so I can get more information on it. Because let me run this form because I want to know what this will look like. What's the? I think it's this one. Nope, it's not that one. It's this one. Okay, so you can interact with it. I think that one I set to disabled. Or maybe you can't. It was just working though. Cool, got your email. I'll send you an email about this. So yeah, I guess maybe that might be a feature request. That would be something maybe we can add, but I'll see what the is saying.
Yeah, I guess what we'd be asking for is to have the ability to create templates where we can like secure parts of a form or a page or whatever it is we're creating, and
Yeah.
not allow them to mess with the standardized parts of it.
Yeah, correct.
Because we do want to push some stuff out to departments so they can create their own forms and stuff, but we want to have standards across the university that cannot be changed.
Sure, that totally makes sense.
In fact, my department wouldn't even handle that. The UX department would handle all that, and they would just ship it out to us, and we just add it to the forms as we create them.
Sure, yeah. I think the templatizing, that's an easy part. You can make a template here, and then we can just hide, or then you can hide all the other templates and only show the templates that you guys are used for that specific department. But that would just be they copy that template and then they could edit and do something with it.
Correct. Yeah.
But it doesn't have that locking thing. I think that's the only thing that
Mm-hmm.
would have to be added.
Yeah, that's what I wasn't seeing. I wasn't seeing a way that you could like even add security just to that specific thing so that only certain users could update it or something. Specific template.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay,
I'll do my
thought that would
research
be
and I'll email you.
All right, man. Thanks.
Yeah, my pleasure. All right, looks like that's everyone. Did I miss anyone? All right, cool. Well, that concludes our lunch and learn. Tomorrow we'll have, who's tomorrow? I was like, tomorrow we'll have, and I forgot who's tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll have, let's see, should be Eric Welmerink is on the product engineering team. He'll be a great wealth of information for anything product related and on how to build decisions too. So without further ado, I'll end this call so that we can get it uploaded in YouTube. So take care, guys.